Our approach play is the linchpin to making better, smarter, and more constructive decisions when we play. From the tee, you'll begin to understand and appreciate it is more important to give yourself the opportunity to hit an approach shot than it is to try and optimize it by attempting to send it and bring an undue risk in. From the fairway, you'll be looking to get into the scoring zone instead of biting off too much in an attempt to try and get to the green. Because what happens when you bite off more than you can chew? You choke.
So I'll be demonstrating this by playing from the US Open tees and also the very front tee boxes at the iconic Pebble Beach. So the way TrackMan works on the range is that it creates a 35-yard radius around the flag, and depending on where your ball finishes once it's inside that, it auto finishes for you. Not a massive fan of that, to be honest, and I'll explain why as this goes on. Right, let's get stuck in. So, playing from the US Open tees, which I have no business doing with my skill and ability, and I will be adopting my level 1 approach from this. So all I'm looking to do is just get the ball in play with an unimpeded shot. I'm not worried about trying to hit it as far as I possibly can. I just want to get this in play. So I'm just going to hit this out there, playing a kind of 175, 180 yard shot. I'm just trying to avoid as much of the trouble as I possibly can. And make sure that with a club that I wouldn't reach the end of the fairway in those bunkers, on something I felt like comfortable enough that I could hit relatively where I wanted it to go. Okay, so from the most forward tees, no, I'm not going to try and swaz it round the corner and hit some kind of miracle shot, because that is essentially suicide. What I want to do is play from my level 3 approach, and I'm trying to get the ball into essentially wedge range, a position where I can go for the green with a wedge in my hand. That's what I'm looking to do here. So again, I'm playing another shot here, very similar to what I just done there. Another kind of 175, 185 yard shot. Just trying to get again in play and to a position where I can get a wedge in my hand. So this is something that is going to be a common theme through this, is that when you're now taking on shots that you have belief that you can pull off, this is where your best stuff comes from. Okay, back to the US Open tee shot. So I've got 157 left in, but because of the constraints I've put in place here, I want to give myself a wedge into this green. So I'm not going to go for it. I'm going to play short and give myself that wedge shot in. But I don't want to get it inside that 35-yard radius, because then it will auto finish, and I won't then have the opportunity to hit a wedge shot in. And that is what I'm trying to practice. And this is literally how I got to the ability I have at doing this, is actually doing it in context. So this is what I meant when I said I now bring my golf course game to the range. I don't try and take my range game to the golf course. I bring my golf course game to the range, and therefore there's no transfer issues when I go to the golf course, because it's literally doing the same thing. Yes, this is a simulator. Yes, this is playing off of a mat, so the lie does come into account. But ultimately, this is building my belief system in place that I can do this. Because if you can't do it on the range, you definitely won't be able to do it on the golf course. But if you can do it on the range, when there's a good chance you can and will be able to do it on the golf course. So these sort of 50-yard wedge shots, I used to actively avoid them. But because I started practicing and playing with them, I've now started to make them feel a lot more comfortable, because I've done it enough times in my practice to prove I can do it. Now, in neither of these shots I'm particularly necessarily aiming at the flag. The flag's right at the front. I just want to get this ball on the green. Because of the algorithm, it's going to auto finish and give me 2 putts once I'm on the green. So we finish with par from the forward tees and bogey from the US Open tees, which I'm relatively confident that if I'd have tried a more aggressive approach, I could have ended up with a lot higher score than that. Okay, on to hole 2, which is a par 5 from the forward tees. And all I'm looking to do here is get it past those bunkers that are up there at 180, 190, and I've got a 200-yard club So this should clear those bunkers and put me in a relatively decent spot. This is an element that people sometimes miss when we talk about strategy, is that my strategy is taking into account my misses and it's allowing for them. So I knew that there was, once I got past those bunkers, there was more than enough room that if I pushed it to the right or left, I was still going to be in a relatively decent spot. Okay, so from the US Open tees, this is playing as a par 4, believe it or not. But I'm not really bothered about what the par is. I'm sticking to my game plan here, and not going for the green until I've got a wedge in my hand. So yes, I'm upgrading to my fairway wood here now, but I know that this club will not go as far as the bunker on the left-hand side there, and because I'm aiming slightly to the left, it's allowing for a bit more margin for error, and that's what strategy is. Because all I'm doing is just building in margin for error, because I know the ball isn't really going to go exactly where I want it to go, so I'm just putting it into an area and a space that my dispersion will fit into. And it's this that allows me to put a good swing on it, because I know there's enough room to fit the dispersion pattern for the shot that I'm playing. Okay, with this next shot, I'm not even thinking or even looking to see where the green is. I'm just looking to put myself into a position that I could potentially go for the green with my next shot. So instead of just pulling out my longest club and whacking it up there, I have actually taken into account that I don't want to get this too close to those trees, because then I won't be able to go for the green. So I'm sticking to my game plan here, and I won't be going for the green until I've got a wedge in my hand. So again, I'm trying to get inside that number that I can do that with, and I'm going to do the same for this shot. A wedge wouldn't quite get to the green, but again, the green's really skinny, really narrow, and I could probably put myself in a bunker, which will then auto finish for me. So instead, I'm going to hit a shot with short into the big, lovely approach area there, which should give me a nice chip up the green towards the flag with loads of green to work with. So again, I'm just trying to avoid all the danger, avoid all the trouble. I'm just trying to give myself good looks, good opportunities to hit good shots. So I've got a lovely clear look at the green here. It says 120 to the flag, but looking at the map here, I've got about 130 yards to the back of the green. So I know that my pitching wedge will fit nicely into that. So this is just now about putting your big boy pants on and just hitting the shot. So because I've done this enough times to know that I can do this, all I've got to do is trust it. Because you'll never rise to the level of your expectations. You'll only fall to the level of your training. Okay, so 2-putt for my bogey from the tips, and then I did manage to get it inside that 35-yard area, so it's auto finished me, which is a shame, and one of the reasons why I don't like that I wanted to hit that shot, and I felt from that position I'd given myself a decent look. I don't think I would have holed it, but I could have given myself a good look at it from there. Okay, on to hole 4, which is quite an interesting one from these front tee box, because you could argue it's drivable and there's not a whole heap of danger down there. But this is why I've put these constraints in place, so my ego doesn't suddenly take over, because I'm just playing a club here again that will take those bunkers out of the equation. It's going to get me down there, but I'm not going for the green and bringing undue risk into play. I'm just getting a ball in play with an unimpeded shot that I can get a wedge on for my next shot. Now, I didn't actually hit that very well, but because of my strategy allowed for it, and there was margin of error built into it, I got away with it. Okay, onto the tips now, and things are a bit different from back here. So I'm upgrading to the fairway wood now for this shot, because this is the longest club that I have confidence in, which has come from my contextual practice. Because even though I've not necessarily got my usual draw that I like to see, and I've argued I've hit a little bit of a push out to the right, because of my strategy, I'm still in a good place. I also wasn't necessarily expecting to even have a look at the green with my next shot from the distance of this hole, and I don't. So 159 to go, so I'm not going to get a wedge there, so I'm going to have to drop it back and play to a position in an area short of the green to give me that wedge look on. So that way I'm taking the bunkers and other danger and trouble out of the equation. Well, and all this is one for all you people that think that playing on the range and a mat doesn't really matter, doesn't really affect. Well, look at this. That was a massive misread. I mean, that looks like I just shanked it, but I hit that about as well as I could. There was a lovely wear mark on the club to prove it, but there must have been a chip or something in that ball, which is why it ended up doing what it did. But it doesn't really matter. This is golf, and this is why it's more realistic, because you've got to deal with it. And effectively, I'll still put myself in a position to hit that wedge shot that I was looking for anyway. Because that's what we're trying to do, is get a wedge in my hand, which I've done. So even though that was an absolutely horrific shot, it didn't really matter in relation to the way the whole played out. And it's dealing with this adversity in your practice prepares you for what happens when you're out on the golf course, because trust me, that's not the first time something like that's going to happen during this round, as you'll see if you continue on watching. Okay, so another little chip up the green, and again, these are the kinds of shots that I'm looking for. This is the kind of positions I'm trying to put myself into to give me these looks, because this is how you've got good at pretty much everything you do on a daily basis. Think about brushing your teeth. When you first started brushing your teeth, you probably struggled to get a toothbrush in your mouth. You kept stabbing yourself in the cheek and like getting toothpaste all over your face. But now, because you do it every day, you're now an expert in it. But no one necessarily taught you how to brush your teeth. They might have helped you, they might have guided you, but you taught yourself because you kept having a go at it. So this is what I'm doing right now. I'm not doing any of this to try and show off. This is purely to demonstrate to you what can be achieved if you keep going, but challenging yourself against the right challenge point. Okay, hole 5, it gets severely narrow down here. So again, there's no point just whacking it down as far as I possibly can. There's just not enough real estate down there for my ball to land into. So the shot's playing uphill here. We've got quite a big bunker at the start of the fairway that I'm trying to clear, and then a tiny little pop bunker in the middle of the fairway. But because it's going uphill, I don't think this club is going to reach, so I can just confidently just whack away. However, I don't always get this right, and this is a case in point, as I've just hit it straight into the tiniest bunker on the planet. However, that bunker isn't that far away from the green, so I am still going to have a wedge in my hand to go for it. And depending on the lie, I don't know how realistic this is, but depending on the lie, a 90-yard bunker shot, if you can just pick it off the top, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be any more harder to do because of the amount of loft I've got in my hand in the first place. So I'm just going to play this shot normal and see what happens. Wasn't sure if I was going to get over that lip, but it has, and we are safely aboard. Hurrah! So would I take that shot on in real life? Well, if the lie was okay, yeah, definitely, because I had enough loft in my hand in the first place. So I've managed to get inside that 35 yard, and this is the reason why I don't like it, and I mentioned it at the beginning, is because it's auto finished. And it's given me 3 shots from there. I'm not saying that I would have done, but there is a chance I could have got up and down from that position, because this is ultimately one of the elements of the game that I think doing this really highlights to everybody, is that you don't have to hit every green in regulation. But are you aware that scratch golfers only average around 9 greens around? So they're only hitting 50% of the greens. So exactly like this shot here, there is an area where I 100% do not want to go, which is the beach. So obviously I'm going to be aiming away from that into an area where I can go. It still gives me a positive target to aim for, and I think I mentioned this in every one of my videos, but this is what I believe Tiger meant when he was saying, I'm aggressive to my spots. he was making aggressive swings but to conservative targets, which I think most people are actually doing the opposite of that. They're playing a conservative swing to an aggressive target. So your brain is 100% responsible for every movement you make. It has to send a signal to your muscle in order for it to fire. Muscles will not fire on their own. So if your brain is not comfortable with what you're asking it to do, well, it just won't let you. So this is where you make these jabby, robotic, clunky looking movements where there's no fluidity into it. Because your brain has basically gone into preservation mode and gone, nah, not letting you do that, and puts the brakes on, which is total opposite of flow state, which is effectively when your mind and your body are in total harmony and everything feels effortless. Okay, so we're on the famous 6th hole here at Pebble, par 5. Just gone with the fairway wood to get something in play and try and leave it short of those bunkers and obviously keep it out of the ocean. From the forward tees, things are a bit different here. So we're just looking again to try and hit something that's going to get us down there in play. So we're just going with the iron here, just going to knock this one into play. And this is case in point right here, folks. I've just got an iron here, and I did not think there was any way, shape or form that the water would come into play with this club in my hand. And I've nailed it. Absolutely flushed it. I mean, no, I don't think I've ever hit that club that far in my life. As you'll see in a second here, because I'm definitely going to try and prove it, that was a 7-iron. Don't know if you can see that there on the camera, but that was a 7-iron that somehow the simulator tells me it went over 200 yards carry. I thought it was playing uphill, so there was no way that ball was ever going to go that far. But I absolutely buttoned it because there was literally no resistance in my mind whatsoever over that shot. Okay, so we live and learn here now, and I've got to deal with that. Again, good bit of adversity, just like in real golf. And this is my shot from the tips, and just looking to get this up and on the plateau onto that top tier. Following the game plan and just getting it inside a position where I can get a wedge in my hand for my next shot. Okay, after my monster 7-iron, could have given yourself a bit of a better drop there, Barn. Anywho, right, so this is again an interesting point from this position here. I don't have to go for the green. Once you're comfortable with not going for the green and going for areas near the green and giving yourself opportunities to get on with your wedge, golf becomes so much easier, because I've hit that so badly, and yet I've still put myself in a absolutely position A for a chip up the green and at the hole. But that looks like it's probably inside that 35-yard marker, so it's going to auto finish me from there, and I won't get the opportunity to hit the shot, which is a shame. Back to my ball from the open tees, the tips, and I'll put myself right in that kind of 50-yard window, which is something, this is a number I've really been working on, and I wouldn't say I'm necessarily feeling a particular position, but I am thinking waist high to waist high with a particular club, which does give me that kind of 50-yard number. I'm not necessarily looking to get it like right next to the flag, I'm just looking to get it on the green. Oh, would you look at that? So I've made par from the US Open tees, but I've also made a birdie because somehow the algorithm's given me 2 shots from there. It's told me I was going to get up and down. Happy days. Which beautifully illustrates the point I'm trying to make here. You don't have to hit the green to have a look at the hole. Because let's face it, you're not a scratch golfer. You wouldn't be watching this video if you were. So therefore you're going to miss more greens than you hit. So it makes sense to try and miss them in the right spot. Right, on to one of the most famous holes in golf, the 7th at Pebble. Par 3 down the hill. Both of these, no matter what tee you play for, it's within a wedge range anyway, so we could just go ahead and just play the hole out. I will mention that on both of these shots, I looked at a number towards the back of the green, and I made sure I hit a club that wouldn't go over the back. That's pretty much all I did with that, and then just hit the shot. And they worked out pretty well. So pars on that hole, and we move on to possibly one of the most difficult par fours in the world. Right, so from the forward tee, there is a good chance that you can hit it into the sea off the top here. So just trying to make sure that that doesn't happen. So we're playing a club, and again, it doesn't matter how far this goes. This is just, again, just get the ball in play with a club that I've chosen that will not go into the ocean. It will not go long. I'm going to do exactly the same thing from the tips. So I'm pulling out a hybrid here because I know that there's no chance of this going long. And this allows me to put a confident swing on it. So I've heard it referred to that this is boring golf. Boring golf is scoring golf. But how can it be boring if you're hitting shots that you intended to hit? Because if you don't find that enjoyable, then I'm not sure golf really is for you. Okay, so here comes one of the most difficult shots. So again, I'm not trying to get this on the green, and that's taken the pressure off. All I want to do is get this into a position where I can get a wedge in my hand. And basically, I've just lowered my expectations of this shot. Because of that, it's gone all right. It's gone fine. It's not the greatest shot in the world. It didn't need to be, but it was functional. And we're going to do the same thing, the same approach from this position as well. I'm not going to go for the green and take it on. I'm going to just make sure I'm playing a club here that shouldn't go in that bunker at the far end there. So as long as I know that, then I can put a confident swing on it. And I've basically just turned what looked a relatively difficult shot into something quite a lot easier and more palatable to deal with and manage. And I've hit that pretty much exactly where I was aiming. And if you define that as boring, like I said, I'm not sure golf really is for you. If you have to try and make it more exciting, then I'm not really sure you've grasped what golf is. If you're going out there and just slapping it about, losing 6 to 7 balls around, then I don't really understand how you can be worried about your score, because you're not even trying to shoot the best score you're capable of. It's almost like you're doing it as a self-preservation exercise, because you might not really want to expose yourself to what you're really capable of. I mean, this is raw. I mean, this could have gone horribly wrong, and in which case I would look at an absolute muppet by doing it. And to be honest, when I first started, it didn't look like this. I wouldn't say you're seeing the end result, but you are certainly seeing something closer to the final product than certainly the first version. I mean, I literally couldn't hit a wedge shot 50 yards. I mean, we're talking shanks, blades, tops, the lot. So I just avoided it. And I used to lay back, and you'll see in my earlier videos, I used to talk about hitting into a position and having a full shot in. But then I started to realise and understand that missing the green in the right spot can make golf so much easier. But if you're doing that, you are going to have a lot of up and downs. Because I was definitely in that camp that thought that I had to be hitting as many greens in regulation as I could. So therefore I was going for every green in regulation. And that was also causing me more problems, because I kept getting myself into really funky positions. So it wasn't necessarily that I was really bad with wedges. I just kept hitting them into really stupid places that made it really hard for me to improve. Once I started playing into positions that were hitting more straightforward and easier shots, all of a sudden my ability started to improve. Okay, here we go. Now this hole here is downhill, and I thought I might be able to sneak past this bunker, which I couldn't. But again, that bunker is still within wedge range to the green, so not necessarily the end of the world. So if I had the opportunity to play the hole again, I wouldn't hit fairway wood, I would hit something less and take that bunker out of play. But because it was a bit open down there and it's really narrow into the green, we decided to try and take it on a bit, which is also why I've pulled driver for the first time. I'm playing from the tips, and this is the first time I've hit driver at all. But because there's a bit of room in this hole, and it's a long hole, and it's really narrow as we get down to the green, it's time to give it a smack. Because this is one of those weird holes that the further you go down, the more room there is left and right. And I knew full well there was no way I was reaching that bunker at 300 plus yards. So it allowed me to, again, put a confident swing onto it because there was room and space to do so. So another tight approach shot here, and this is obviously what Pebble's famous for, is its really small greens and tight approaches. So I'm not going to try and do any heroics here. I just want to get this into a position where I can get a wedge in my hand and try and keep the ball off the beach. Alright, so I've got one of these slightly dubious long bunker shots coming up, but looking at what we have available to us, I'm moving the aiming position to be more into a safer area, and I've got a club that I know full well that is not going to go long. So again, I can just put a confident swing on it, and the result will be the result. But golf is an individual game, played by individuals. Therefore, you must become an expert in yourself and your own true ability. It's you versus the course. And this is exactly what I've been trying to help you find out this whole time. Know thyself. In order to do this, follow these steps. Step 1, establish your baseline against a clear objective. Step 2, test your baseline against that objective. Step 3, develop belief and trust in your baseline as you test it against the next level up. Step 4, watch as your next level becomes your new baseline. And step 5, eat, sleep, rave, and just repeat level 3. Which is why I've been saying play within your limits and practice out of them since about 2019. This is exactly what I've done to be able to play to this level, which if I had not put these constraints in place and just went out and played, I'm relatively confident that these scores would probably resemble an NBA All-Star game rather than what they look like right now. This is not course management, because it's not the course we need to manage, it's ourselves. Most of us are undisciplined Tasmanian devils, which is why we need to use constraints in order to stay within our lanes.